So we are giving our first Daiginjo sake a final stir before we pump this entire tank into the press. This is our first Daiginjo, so the rice has been milled down to 50%. It is Yamadanishiki rice, which is our house rice. It's also the best rice in the world for making sake. And the lower down you mill the rice, the longer the fermentation tends to be. So this particular batch, today is day 67. Normal batch for us is about 40 days. So this is quite a bit longer and should yield an extremely complex, extremely light sake with amazing fruit aromas and a little bit of a spice note from the yeast. And so we will just stir this and then start pumping it into the press, which will separate all the liquid from the solids. And then we will have sake. Okay, it's time to press. Sorry, this part's a little noisy. So I try to keep it a little bit homogeneous so that you don't get pockets of rice and pockets of liquid. And usually we don't get the whole thing in one fell swoop. It takes a little bit. As sake comes out, you can pump more of this mash into the press. So the pump is set to 100 psi. So once the pressure reaches 100 psi, it automatically just stops. We have a couple of yeasts that are specifically designed for Daiginjo and Ginjo sakes. So they're highly aromatic yeasts, and they tend to be fruity with a lot of ethyl caprate production, which is like anise or licorice notes. You'll find it's pretty pervasive in premium sake in Japan because we're using the same yeasts as they are. So we made sure to use an ethyl caprate yeast for this guy to give it that really nice Daiginjo kind of spice note. And all the yeasts tend to be pretty fruity. So it's going to be fruity with an anise kind of finish. The big change between what we normally do is that the rice has been milled down 50%. So half the rice is gone, is very small, and that means you're milling away a ton of proteins and fats which don't ferment. And so the sake will be fruity and have that anise note, but unlike using something like Yamadanishiki 70, it will be very light on the palate. The small batches are weird because you're making much less sake. You're using fewer plates, but it's a lot less sake. So we're used to the big batches where by now we would have already gotten 2 of these tanks out and pumped them into the tank, into the holding tank. But we haven't even gotten a full grant yet because our overall yield is lower. So it seems to take about 8 hours to press a batch with our press, no matter what size it is. So if we use all the plates and we press a giant batch of sake, it takes 8 hours. And if we use fewer plates and press these guys, it still takes 8 hours. All right. Yeah, so this particular batch is Yamadanishiki, which we've said before, ad nauseum, is the best rice in the world for making sake. But we actually get a number of rices from our friends at Isbell Farms in Arkansas that make very different sake. We don't use it that often, but we've used Omachi rice, which is an heirloom rice from Japan, so it wasn't a modern crossbreed. We don't use it as often as other rices because you have to brew the sake with omachi and then you have to let it rest for 6 to 8 months to really come into its own and get the best flavor and the best aroma from it. I was talking with a Japanese brewer about it, and they called omachi a petulant child. So even Japanese brewers know that omachi you have to brew, and then you have to kind of lay it down, put it in a tank, keep it cold for 6 to 8 months to really get the best flavor and aroma. So we like to serve extremely fresh sake, so we're not using a ton of omachi. Gohyakumangoku is the other brewing rice that we have access to. It's actually one of my favorite rices from Japan, and obviously grown at Isbell Farms in Arkansas. It is a delicious rice that tends to have a little more ricey character than Yamadanishiki. Yamadanishiki has so much glucose and so much starch that the sake that comes out of it is like very, 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 very just like sweet and big and round and clean. So Gohyakumangoku, which is the newest rice for us, actually has a little more ricey character to it. And then we have an American rice called Titan that we use some of, and it is not a Japanese brewing rice cultivar, but it is actually really good for making sake. We tend to blend it with Yamadanishiki so that we get some of the increased glucose and starch from the Yamadanishiki, but we also get the flavor of the Titan and some benefits from the Titan. So we've done some brews like that where it's like 50-50, we find is a pretty good ratio for Titan rice, because sometimes Yamadanishiki is too much. It's like too big of a presence. And so by adding Titan, we can actually tone that down a little bit and make like drier sakes or lighter sakes if we don't want that much, character. I want to process this Daiginjo less than we might process another sake, so we'll probably leave it unfiltered. It's going to be pretty clear after some cold storage, but we're not going to polish filter it. I'm probably going to single pasteurize it. One of my favorite Daiginjos of all time, Onikoroshi, is a single pasteurized Daiginjo and is super fruity, and it kind of has some character of aged sake, but also some character of really fresh sake. I also really love Daiginjo, any Daiginjo from Nanbu Bijin, which is a brewery in Iwate, and they just make a really stellar, super clean Daiginjo that not only is fruity, but has a lot of rice character and some minerality. And then we will probably take a few kegs of this sake off and cold condition it for an extended period of time, like one of the best Daiginjos, Born. They tend to age their stuff for 2 to 3 years under cold conditions, so it becomes a lot richer over time. So I'd like to do that with just a few kegs of this, maybe break it out for anniversaries or special events.